Hello, hello, Dr. Kirk here again to talk to you more about the research process. We're in data collection part 2 today. So let's talk about it. I alluded to these 4 bullet points already last week at the end of the video. There are really 4 points I'll bring up. They all somewhat go together. They overlap a little bit, and then I'll give you some examples. Now, your text also is giving some of this great information. It may have it in a little bit different order, but do make sure that you're keeping up on that reading because that's going to be very helpful for you in both your research and in your writing. Okay, so let's talk first about primary sources. I know I mentioned this last week, but primary sources are anything that the information comes directly from the person or the target of your research. I'd say in most of our cases, that's going to be a composer that we're researching. So that primary source would be any information that comes directly from them. So if they wrote a book or an article or anything like that, that's going to be primary source. A secondary source would be anyone who witnessed that occur. So in the case of composers, oftentimes the secondary sources would be that composer's students, or if that composer was also a conductor or something, or someone who played under them, who witnessed them. So they heard what that person said or saw what that person did or knows what that person wanted in terms of their own music. Those would be secondary sources. And this is one of the differentiations really between undergraduate research and graduate research is that graduate research really places a value on primary sources whenever possible. Again, if primary sources are not available, secondary sources are the next best thing. But of course, the emphasis would be on having reliable information. And so it's not good enough for us at this stage to just believe what someone else says about something. We need to be able to find that information on our own to know that it is true and accurate information. So keep an eye on that. Manuscripts, composers' original manuscripts in their own handwriting, it often will provide other information that is not what you will find once it is edited and published in a printed copy that you can buy off of Amazon or something like that. You're going to see some different information usually in a handwritten manuscript. And besides, it's just cool to see that, by the way. Special collections. These are libraries that collect artifacts of all different types. And for our focus, those are ones that include handwritten manuscripts by composers. Sometimes otherwise you'll find playbills or program notes or things from concerts from some famous conductors, composers, orchestras, things like that. And that's also really beneficial to see some of that information. There are special collections, libraries, several of them in Southern California, like you could actually drive to, but there are a number throughout the country and throughout the world that also have digitized collections now. So that is much more convenient for us in terms of our research right now. We don't have to fly all over the world to find that information. However, if you do, you are going to see things differently if you see them in person. And also some of those collections may have some digitized elements and others not. So anyway, we'll keep that in mind. Some of those things may be available to us. Videos or interviews. If you're dealing with a living composer or a composer who lived in the latter half of the 20th century up to this point, you may find some videos or you may find some video interviews from those composers that would be in their own words. You would hear things that maybe even hadn't been published in writing, whether an article or a book or whatnot, but you can actually hear the composer explain things that differently than you might hear or see in writing. Now, I have a couple of things I wanted to show you in terms of this. Let me just pop over to a different screen real quick. All right, so some years ago, well, many years ago, when I was a graduate student, I saw an advertisement for a traveling exhibition from the Library of Congress. And as I'm sure you know, the Library of Congress is located in Washington, D.C., but they do often have traveling exhibitions all over the country. And so I happened to see this one, and they were displaying some Bach manuscripts. Some of his cantatas, and these were in his own handwriting, original manuscripts from Bach, and that just amazed me to see hundreds of years before this written down, and that I could actually examine this document. And I just found that incredibly fascinating, because that's not something you just see anytime, anywhere. Also, the super helpful librarians who were traveling there told me that they also house the Aaron Copland collection at the Library of Congress. And as I mentioned to you before, I took a class in Aaron Copland and Leonard Bernstein when I was in graduate school, and I was actually taking the class at that time. And so when I learned that, I thought, wow, that is fantastic. So I went, I'm sure you've all been staring at this page since I just brought it up anyway. I went to the website of the Library of Congress and found the Aaron Copland collection, and they house his entire estate. It was all donated to the Library of Congress when he passed away in 1990. And this includes not only these old photographs, you can see some of these on this screen, but all of his original manuscripts, his works in his own handwriting, which is so cool for a lot of reasons, but also because Aaron Copland's music is still under copyright. He didn't die all that long ago. And so anyway, so you can't just find it anywhere online or IMSLP or any of those free versions. It's not just everywhere. So that was really exciting to be able to see that. Also, in that class, I was assigned Aaron Copland's piano concerto to report on for class. And so I had done an extensive analysis on it, and I'd read everything that I could read about it. And I thought, okay, this is awesome. I can look it up on this website and see what they have. And so they had scanned his, you can see this page, they had scanned in the entire manuscript here of his sketches of the piano concerto. And as I was doing my analysis, I thought, this is not very much like a typical concerto, not the same kind of forms, not the same number of movements. It's definitely not a classical style concerto, which is okay. He's a 20th century composer, and I didn't necessarily expect that he was going to be classical. But I thought it was very interesting as I was analyzing, and I thought, this is really more like a fantasy or something, not so much like a concerto. And if you can see all the way to the top of the screen, these crossed off words here, you see scherzo crossed off, and then you see fantasy or fantasia, possibly, it's a little blurred at the end, crossed off, and then you see piano concerto circled. So it seems to me like he was entertaining some different names for this piece, and then finally settled on piano concerto, which he circled here. And you can see some of these notes that are written in, and that's one of the main themes actually from the piano concerto. You'll have to take a listen now that I've mentioned it to you. But anyway, that is so interesting, because if I purchased the published version of the piano concerto, I would not find that information. I would not find his little notes and sketches and tossing around ideas like, maybe I'll make it like this, maybe I'll call it this, maybe I'll do this, maybe these main themes he has kind of sketched in there, not all complete. This wouldn't be great if you were trying to perform it from this manuscript, but it's really invaluable to be able to see that. So the Library of Congress, you can find easily online, loc.gov, and they house all kinds of collections, by the way. If you're interested in any other facets of history other than music, they've got tons. They have documents from all of the US presidents. and lots of other things, women's suffrage, things about the Civil War, all kinds of those things. In terms of music, I just made a note of some of the collections they have that are pertinent to us. I mentioned to you Aaron Copland, also Leonard Bernstein and George Gershwin. They have their full collections. Felix Mendelssohn, they have a number of his, and he was not American, as I'm sure you know, a number of his things. They have a collection called Jazz on the Screen Filmography. Some of you I know are very interested in jazz and film. There's quite a bit about film music, even in Aaron Copland's collection. It's very interesting. There is a collection about John Philip Sousa, you know, the famous March composer, among other things. There's a collection about Martha Graham. And if you don't know that name, she was very well known for choreography, and she choreographed some of Aaron Copland's earliest ballets, but she was very well known in the dance world. So if that's something that interests you, her whole collection is there as well. There is also quite a bit about folk music and the songs of America and that aspect of history. And so I find that, you know, just very interesting as well. So there's a lot that you can access from anywhere, of course, because you can access it online, but also would be very interesting to go and see in person, of course. But as I said, there are some other special collections, libraries that are here just in Southern California that you can drive to. All right, let me show you just a little bit of what I found about Mike Post. I've had this ongoing research topic I've mentioned to you over the last few weeks. TV music composer, and he is still alive. He is in his 70s now, but there is quite a bit about him in terms of interviews. I have not found anything that he specifically has written, like articles or books in his own writing. However, on his own sorry, brain just went, his own website. Yes, of course, his own website. There's a full biography, which is really interesting here. And this is gold here. We've got 6 videos from the Archive of American TV music that is about 30-minute videos in each of these cases that go through his childhood and upbringing and how he got into composing and all of these different TV shows that he composed for, and other people that he worked with, and what he thought was important in terms of the different aspects of composition and different stages of his career and whatnot. I mean, it's just invaluable information in terms of coming from the horse's mouth, so to speak. I mean, these are primary sources. So that's really helpful for me. And I'm continuing to work on my own topic. You all, I hope, are working on your own topics. Now, I realize we've got several irons in the fire, so to speak, in this class. So you have readings and things that are helping, hopefully, to cultivate some higher level graduate writing. You've got other assignments. For example, your journal critique you completed already, and another one coming. But I hope that all of this is helping you think through what kind of topic you may want to have, and that you're not waiting until the last minute to decide on a topic. So your official, if we want to call it official, your official research topic that is written out and submitted to me so that I know what your topic is going to be, is not due for a couple more weeks. And so I hope that as I'm talking through all these things with you in these videos, that is helping you think through this whole process as well, and not that you're waiting until 2 more weeks from now to even start thinking about what that research topic entails. Because as you've hopefully seen, I've done a lot of work on this research topic, and I have not yet nailed down my exact refined research topic, not in so many words as of yet, just an interest statement and a whole lot of exploratory research up to this point. So next week, we'll talk more about what goes into refining your research topic, and just an interest statement. As I told you before, that's this kind of loosey-goosey. It's not so specific yet. And we really want this to be a very succinct, a very concise research topic, not too big, not too small, not too nebulous. Because if we don't have a very concise topic that we can put a concise thesis statement with, then we can't really answer that question. We ought to be able to have a question that can be defined or answered at the end. And I'm sure that you all have read some things that don't really do that. If they're not very specific about what it is they're trying to address, then we can't really say whether they've actually addressed it by the time we get to the end of that that article or book. And that's not what we want. We want it to be as clear as we possibly can, clear, concise, succinct writing, so that we can really effectively answer that question by the time we get to the end. All right, so please feel free to reach out at any point if you have questions, or even if you're just thinking, well, gosh, I'm interested in such and such, but I really don't know what else to do with it or where else to go, then make sure and let me know. I'd be happy to help y'all nail down your best research topics. All right, I'll see y'all next week.